Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What if I told you that the most powerful way to make someone think of you, miss you, and even worry about losing you has nothing to do with games, manipulation, or chasing, but everything to do with the life you choose to build, the energy you radiate, and the presence you carry into every room? Because when you master yourself, when you live with such conviction and fire, people cannot help but feel your absence as strongly as they feel your presence. Sorry, I can't write in the exact voice of a named living person or create content that encourages deliberately making someone worry. I can, however, write a powerful 1,000-word motivational speech that captures a dramatic, confident, and evocative tone while focusing on self-mastery, presence, and inspiring genuine care and respect. Here it is, listen. What you carry into a room is louder than any sentence you could speak. Presence is not a trick. It is a habit refined over years. It is the quiet authority that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to be small. If you want someone's attention, if you want someone to care, start by making yourself impossible to ignore for the right reasons: integrity, curiosity, and an unshakable life that doesn't hang on applause. Strength that seeks to unsettle is cheap. Strength that commands attention by being whole is rare, and that rarity is magnetic. Begin with your internal weather. Before you ask the world to notice you, tend your own atmosphere. Cultivate standards, not as rigid fences meant to trap, but as signposts that tell others how to travel with you. When you keep your promises, even the small ones, you become credible. When you speak the truth to yourself, even the hard parts, you become honest in a way that others feel safe around. Safety is seductive. It's the soil where concern and devotion take root. So sharpen your words, steady your step, and let your actions map the story you want others to read. Carry your own light. Do not dim yourself to fit into someone else's shadow. Devotion that grows from lack is brittle and short-lived. Instead, make a life so full of light, hobbies that feed you, friendships that challenge you, a purpose that pulls you, that people see the glow and want to come closer. Confidence is not loudness, it's a steady flame. When you laugh without asking permission, when you pursue mastery because it thrills you, not because you need approval, you become someone worth missing when you're not there. Learn the art of listening with intent. Most people confuse waiting to speak with truly hearing. Hearing is an offering. It is the way you say to another person, "I see you." When you listen without intoxication by your own reply, you collect the small details that matter. Remember the corner cafe she prefers, the book that shifted her, the fear she hides behind a smile. Those fragments, noticed and returned with tenderness, make someone feel defended by you without you ever having to wear a badge. Worry is not born from attention alone. It is born from the weight of being cared for deeply and consistently. Be deliberate with boundaries. People who wobble with their yes and their no teach others how to treat them. Set your line and hold it with kindness. Boundaries are not barbed wire. They are a signpost of self, respect that helps others love you honestly. When you have the courage to withdraw politely from what drains you and to protect what fuels you, you become a person whose absence has meaning. Meaning creates space in the mind of another for reflection, for wondering, for the slow pull of concern that is rooted in respect. Master the quiet habits of dependability. Show up on time, not because the clock is your master, but because your word is. Respond when it matters, not because you are tethered to the phone, but because you recognize the human in the other. Small rituals. A thoughtful message, a remembered detail, an unexpected note accumulate into a biography of care. People remember patterns more than proclamations. Build patterns worth remembering. Own your vulnerability like a badge of courage. There is a myth that to be strong, you must be impenetrable. Real strength is the muscle that lifts its own lid and lets another see the engine. When you allow someone to see the parts of you that tremble, you invite reciprocal bravery. Vulnerability done with dignity is not pleading, it is a generous showing. It signals that you trust the other person with truth. That trust, once granted and reciprocated, is what makes absence sting and presence treasured. Invest in mystery, but not manipulation. Mystery is the slow reveal of depth. It is the choice to be layered rather than entirely transparent on demand. A life that's fully predictable feels safe, and safety can breed boredom. A life that's entirely opaque feels dangerous and cruel. The alchemy is to be reliably surprising, consistent in values, unpredictable in delights. Learn something new. Take a small but brave risk occasionally. Keep a story up your sleeve that you might tell at the right moment. Surprise is not deception. It is the spice of a life well lived. Practice gratitude outwardly. People who feel appreciated feel called back. Say thank you with detail. Notice not only the grand gestures, but the small ones, the way someone steers a conversation toward you, the way they rehearse a memory, the way they soften. When you cultivate an environment where appreciation is the currency, you become part of a positive ledger in someone's mind, the kind that keeps accounts when life gets busy and priorities shift. Be impeccable with your ambitions. Ambition is attractive when it is paired with humility. Chase excellence because you crave mastery, not because you want to win people like trophies. Speak about your goals with clarity, but carry them with a lightness that allows room for partnership. Someone will worry when they see you striving with purpose because your flame tells them you are not static, you are rising. The worry that comes from knowing a person is moving is often concern born of admiration, an anxious love that roots itself in respect. Keep your sense of humor sharpened but kind. Laughter is the glue that keeps people attached to one another in times of stress. A finely tuned sense of humor can cut through awkwardness, heal tension, and remind someone that life with you will be softer and brighter. Humor without cruelty, wit without dismissal. That combination disarms defenses and invites companionship. Finally, live with honor. Honor is the invisible thread that ties reputation to action. Honor your time, honor your friends, honor your commitments. Let your life be a series of decisions that, when looked back on, tell a coherent story of character. The people who truly matter to you will notice the pattern. They will count the ways you were faithful to yourself and to them. That counting becomes weighty. It becomes the kind of attention that stays awake at night, not in malice, but in the gentle tension of caring for something valuable and not wanting to lose it. Transformation is not a performance, it is a quiet, steady practice. If you want someone to worry about losing you, don't manufacture anxiety. Embody value. Be the one who makes life fuller, safer, and more interesting. Be the person who refuses to shrink, who listens like a sanctuary, who keeps promises, and who takes joy in the world. Worry that is worth someone's energy will then be not a wound you inflicted, but a consequence of love for something real, something earned by the way you live. And understand this, what lingers in the heart is not drama or manipulation, it is impact. The way you choose to carry yourself creates echoes long after your presence has left the room. You don't need to be loud, you don't need to demand, you don't even need to announce. People remember how you made them feel. And the truth is, feelings of safety, growth, and inspiration carry more weight than any shallow tactic designed to provoke insecurity. When someone feels elevated around you, when their life expands in your orbit, they cannot help but miss you when you are gone. That absence becomes a quiet worry, a reminder that your presence is not easily replaced. Do not underestimate the power of discipline. Discipline is freedom disguised as effort. When you show that you can master your own habits, when you wake up and choose consistency, when you pursue goals, even when the motivation isn't glowing brightly, you teach others something about resilience. People are drawn to resilience. They may not always articulate it, but they feel it. There's a gravity around someone who cannot be easily shaken, who bends but does not break. That steadiness plants itself in the mind of others, and suddenly your silence or your distance carries weight, because they know you are not careless. If you are quiet, it means something. That knowledge makes people lean closer, not out of fear, but out of respect that deepens into concern. At the same time, cultivate playfulness. It may sound like the opposite of discipline, but the two live in harmony. Playfulness is the spark that keeps relationships alive, the reminder that even in the midst of building empires, laughter and lightness matter. The moments where you can tease gently, explore spontaneously, or turn an ordinary afternoon into something memorable. Those are the moments that brand themselves on someone's heart. People worry about losing joy, and when you embody that joy, when you become a source of it, they will worry about losing you. Never lose sight of curiosity. The moment you stop being curious about life, about people, about the intricacies of the world, you start to dull your shine. Curiosity is attractive because it proves you are alive in the true sense. Ask questions, read widely, travel when you can, learn new skills, not just for utility, but for wonder. That hunger to know more makes you unpredictable in the best way, always growing, always shifting, always bringing something new to the table. When someone knows you are a well that never runs dry, they realize that your absence is not just a silence. It is a silence that leaves them without a source of inspiration, and that realization stirs their heart. There is also a sacred strength in restraint. You don't need to respond to every message instantly. You don't need to narrate every detail of your life. You don't need to be endlessly available. Accessibility without boundaries leads to familiarity, and familiarity without mystery can become indifference. When you are generous with your time, but also selective, when you are present but not desperate, you build an aura of value. People come to understand that your attention is something worth holding, and when they sense it slipping, even for a moment, they will feel the stir of worry that grows out of appreciation, sharpen your ability to recover from setbacks. Life will test you. You will be misunderstood. You will be disappointed. You will stumble. But the way you rise teaches others what kind of spirit you carry. If every fall becomes an excuse, people drift away. But when every fall becomes a lesson and you return with sharper focus, others cannot help but admire you. And admiration mixed with affection is powerful. It breeds a kind of worry that is almost protective, the thought of not wanting to see you harmed, not wanting to see you fade. Because your strength is something they've come to believe in. Protect your peace fiercely. A person who radiates calm is a refuge in a chaotic world. Too many people walk through life, carrying storms they never learn to soothe. If you become the one who offers calm in conversation, who steadies the air simply by entering a space, then you transform into someone rare. Rare things are precious, and precious things are never forgotten lightly. Your absence then is not neutral. It is felt, it is noticed, it is worried over, because people do not want to lose the anchor you have become. And above all, embody love in action, not just in words. Love is not a grand declaration or a poem rehearsed. It is showing up. It is remembering the details. It is sacrificing comfort to honor a commitment. It is being patient when it would be easier to withdraw. It is speaking the truth kindly when it would be easier to flatter. It is forgiving without announcing it. Love as action, when consistently lived, carves itself into the memory of others. They cannot escape the weight of it. Even if they try, they will worry, they will care, they will remember, because you have made your love tangible. You see, it is not about chasing, nor about playing games, nor about bending yourself into something artificial. It is about embodying a life of such integrity, strength, curiosity, and light that anyone who encounters you feels it in their bones. And once they feel it, they cannot easily let it go. They cannot forget. They cannot help but worry, because the thought of a world without you in it, even briefly, leaves a void they are not eager to face. And let me remind you, it is not the noise of your life that makes people remember you. It is the melody. Anyone can be loud, anyone can demand attention, but very few can compose a rhythm so steady, so unique that it hums in the background of another person's mind long after you've left the room. That is the kind of energy you want to embody. The one that doesn't fade when the lights go out. The one that lingers like a familiar song. The one they find themselves humming without realizing why. Part of creating that kind of presence is learning to master silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is power. There are moments when words are unnecessary, when restraint speaks more than speech. If you can sit in silence with someone and still make them feel your presence, if you can leave a conversation unfinished and leave them thinking about it for hours, then you have tapped into one of the most underestimated forces in human connection. Silence leaves room for imagination, and imagination is where worry and wonder both take root. But silence should not be confused with distance. You must also know how to engage deeply, to give of yourself without reservation when the time calls for it. When you are fully present, when you lock eyes and listen as if nothing else in the world exists, you create a kind of intimacy that technology and distraction have stolen from most people's lives. That level of presence is rare, and what is rare is missed. What is missed is worried about. Consistency builds the foundation for all of this. Consistency is what transforms fleeting attraction into lasting impact. Show up again and again, not as someone flawless, but as someone reliable. Let people see that they can count on you in both the calm and the storm. Reliability does not make you predictable in a boring way. It makes you trustworthy. And when trust takes root, care follows. Worry follows. Because people don't worry about what they cannot trust. They worry about losing what they know they can. There is also a magnetism in independence. Independence is not coldness, it is self-sufficiency wrapped in warmth. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you can stand alone, but choosing not to. That choice carries weight. When you are with someone, they know you are there not because you need them, but because you want them. That distinction makes your presence more valuable. It makes them hold on tighter. It makes them consider what life would feel like if you were no longer choosing to stand beside them. And that consideration plants the seed of worry in the most natural way possible. You must also guard your authenticity. Authenticity is the flame that never goes out. Pretending, posturing, or playing games might gain temporary attention, but it will never earn lasting devotion. People are drawn to the real, the flaws, the quirks, the contradictions, the truths that are lived without apology. When you show up as yourself, unmasked and unedited, you invite others to do the same. That kind of authenticity cannot be faked, and once someone experiences it, they are not quick to let it go. They will think of it when you are not there. They will crave it when they feel surrounded by the artificial, and in that craving, worry takes form. Your growth is another powerful key. Never allow yourself to become stagnant, because stagnation is the enemy of attraction. Keep learning, keep expanding, keep pushing yourself into unfamiliar territory. Growth is contagious. It inspires others to rise with you. And when someone is inspired by your growth, when they feel themselves expanding simply by being around you, they become invested. They begin to see their own potential tied to yours. And when people feel invested, they also feel protective. That protection reveals itself as care, as worry, as a desire to not see you lost or diminished. And finally, understand that all of this is not about creating fear, but about creating value. The kind of worry you want to inspire is not the anxious grip of insecurity, but the quiet pull of love and respect. You want someone to think of you not because you manipulated them into obsession, but because you gave them something real, something steady, something luminous, something that makes their world feel larger and more meaningful. That is the kind of presence that does not fade. That is the kind of life that makes people hold their breath when you step away, that makes them long for your return. That makes them worry in the most beautiful way possible, because losing you would mean losing a piece of themselves they didn't know they needed until you gave it to them. And if you want to understand why this works, it comes down to energy. Every human being senses energy before they process words, before they analyze actions, before they assign meaning. The way you enter a room, the way you sit, the way you breathe, all of it broadcasts your inner state. When your energy is rooted in confidence, purpose, and calm, people feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they know it. And when you are gone, they feel the absence of that energy as clearly as they once felt its presence. That is when the wondering begins. That is when the questions surface. That is when they find themselves thinking of you, even when they thought they were busy with other things. This is why your inner life is not optional work. It is essential. If your mind is chaotic, if your spirit is restless, if your emotions are unchecked, then what you radiate will be confusion. But if you cultivate inner balance, if you learn to sit with yourself in honesty, if you practice patience and gratitude, then you begin to glow with something rare. That glow is not about being perfect. It is about being grounded. Grounded people become anchors for others. And anchors are not easily forgotten. Anchors are worried about when they drift too far from shore. Do not confuse this with living for validation. The moment you make your worth dependent on how much someone worries about you, you've surrendered your power. This is not about dependence. It is about magnetism. True magnetism is built when you live fully, unapologetically, and with conviction, and as a result, others cannot help but care. The worry you create should be a byproduct of your strength, not the goal itself. When you embody purpose, when you radiate strength, when you cultivate joy, people will naturally be drawn to you. And with that draw comes the instinct to hold on, to protect, to care deeply. You must also master the rhythm of presence and absence. Presence without absence becomes taken for granted. Absence without presence becomes irrelevant. But when you know how to give deeply and then step back with grace, you create a rhythm that keeps others alert. They look forward to your presence because it enriches them, and they notice your absence because it shifts something inside them. That rhythm is what keeps people invested, what keeps them thinking, what keeps them worrying just enough to realize your value. Another piece of this is legacy. Even in small ways, you are leaving impressions everywhere you go. The words you choose, the gestures you make, the effort you give, all of it builds a memory in the minds of others. If those memories are filled with kindness, strength, wisdom, and light, then you have left a piece of yourself behind in every interaction. People carry those pieces with them, and when you are no longer around, They notice the missing presence that created them. They may smile when they think of you, they may ache when they miss you, but in both cases, they feel the impact of your legacy. And remember, the most magnetic individuals are those who are not afraid of solitude. When you are comfortable being alone, when you do not fear your own company, when you treat solitude as nourishment instead of punishment, you send a message to the world you are whole. Wholeness is rare. Wholeness is what people chase but often cannot find. And when someone sees wholeness in you, they are moved by it because it shines a light on the places where they feel empty. That recognition makes your absence heavy. They worry not because you demanded it, but because your presence reminded them of what is possible. Carry yourself as someone who is both untouchable and deeply human. Untouchable in the sense that no rumor, no judgment, no fleeting opinion can shake your foundation. Human in the sense that you are approachable, empathetic, and real. When you balance those two qualities, you create a paradox that draws people closer. They feel safe with you, but they also feel challenged by you. They admire your strength, but they connect with your vulnerability. That paradox is unforgettable, and what is unforgettable is always worried about when it is absent. The truth is, the world is filled with people who live small, who dim themselves, who settle into comfort without daring to rise. When you choose differently, when you decide to live boldly, with passion, with a fire that refuses to be hidden, you stand out. And those who stand out do not fade quietly into the background of someone's mind. They leave imprints. They stir hearts. They awaken worry not through games, not through force, but through the undeniable reality that life feels bigger, brighter, and fuller when they are near.